Yo, what is good? What's going on? I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I wanted to hop on real quick because this story is literally a spinoff, a development of the first story we talked about on last night live stream. So if you didn't check it out, make sure you check it out. We're gonna do a little recap, but we gotta talk about it because it's actually a pretty big deal for an acting U.S. attorney to just quit after recently being put in that position. So we're going to talk about it as always. I'm Marcus. Here we do attorney reactions to current events, trending news, and topics that are just kind of popping that you all send me that come across my uh, algorithm, all of that good stuff. If you get some value out of this content, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment. All right, now real quick, let's go ahead and jump in it. We're going to give a little bit of background. This is about New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I don't know, months ago when he got indicted by the federal government, we did go through his indictment. I told you all, I said it just yesterday when we were talking about it. The evidence in that indictment was just obvious. Like it wasn't like, oh man, this is a close call. This could go any way. A jury might be hung. Like, no. If you present this evidence to a jury, they're gonna come back with a guilty verdict. It's obvious that you were taking bribes. It's obvious that the bribes were they weren't implied, they were expressed. You got trips and lavish stays on Turkish airlines and hotels throughout the world in exchange for skirting building requirements that were put in place by the state of New York to get this Turkish consulate built. Okay, so there's enough evidence out there. Just looking at that indictment, he would have been screwed. So yesterday we talked about how, or we kind of analogized how Eric Adams riding Trump's jock to get him out of his current indictment was kind of the thing that Tiffany Henry wanted to do. She was like, hey, maybe I can curry some favor with the president of the United States. Now, let's take a look and see what happened with Eric Adams. We talked about his indictment. I'll probably link the video or add it as a card or something to this video at some point in time once we finish the live stream. But let's take a look at what happened yesterday. He's indicted. The charges don't look good. The facts aren't looking in his favor. And this is what happened a few days ago with regard to his actual indictment. Then we're going to talk about the newest developments. Let's jump in.
Moments ago, the DOJ ordering the acting U.S. attorney of the Southern District of New York to dismiss all charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. For more on this developing story.
So the DOJ ordering the acting U.S. attorney. Long story short, that means that the United States attorney, the entire head of the National Department of Justice, reached down to the Southern District of New York and said, hey, acting U.S. attorney general, we need you to get Eric Adams' indictment up out of here. So U.S. attorney for the entire DOJ reached down to the Southern District of New York to ask the acting U.S. attorney, hey, make these charges go away. We're dismissing them. Now, remember, all of these people are newly in play. That's why they're acting. All these people are newly in play, newly appointed. That's going to play a big part in this story.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delane joins us tonight. Ken, we've been covering this story a lot here on Top Story. What more do we know about what happened today? I know this story just broke moments ago.
Yeah, it really just did break, Tom. A Justice Department official confirming to me that the acting Deputy Attorney General, Emil Bove, who, as you recall, was once Donald Trump's defense lawyer, has ordered the Southern District of New York, the acting U.S. attorney there, to dismiss all charges against the New York mayor, Eric Adams. And I got a sense from this official of what the Justice Department's reasoning was behind this decision, and it's multifold. They are saying that they believe this case was an example of weaponization, meaning that it was unfairly brought for political motive. And they've accused the former U.S. attorney, Damian Williams, of using this case for his own political gain. They also say that because of this indictment, the New York mayor had lost his security clearance, and that made it more difficult for him to cooperate with law enforcement operations in the city, including immigration enforcement, which is a high priority for the Trump administration. And
he lost his security clearance, made it difficult for him to be able to participate in immigration enforcement. Another big key we got to remember for the next part of this story. So everybody who's being directed to toss this is a recent appointee by this President Donald Trump. Eric Adams, the evidence, he's actually screwed in the indictment. Essentially what happened, long story short, Eric Adams just thought he was on the right side, even though he actually was the reason that New York's migrant crisis got so bad. He was on the right side once it started costing them billions of dollars for his city. So he actually was like, oh, we got to do something about this. He was one of the very rare Democrats who started talking about the failed immigration policy because this city was just using so much resources to deal with the influx of immigrants. So he started glazing up Donald Trump in an effort, I believe, I think he do agree that the migrant crisis was terrible for his city. I think that was obvious. But two, hey, we all know President Trump is transactional. If there's a deal to be made, there's a deal to be made. So it looked like he was kind of glazing up Donald Trump, hopefully to maybe get a pardon or something that could get rid of this indictment. That's my speculation. It sounds kind of crazy, but I think that's the consensus. Now let's jump back into the story.
And they say that they assessed that the Adams defense was not given enough time before the imminent trial to deal with all the massive amounts of evidence in the case. So they're ordering this dismissal. Now, the case has not yet been dismissed. Now,
that's actually crazy, though. You don't get a dismissal because the defendant's attorney didn't have enough time to prepare. You get a continuance. So that actually sounds insane.
To be done through a motion filed by the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, and a judge would have a chance to review that. And one of the interesting questions is going to be, will those prosecutors carry out this order? Will any of them resign rather than do that? I mean, no doubt that they believe strongly in this case. There's a lot of evidence. This is a massive bribery and corruption case, not brought lightly against a very prominent public figure. But this is also an example of how the Trump Justice Department is unafraid to weigh into these politically fraught cases and take these kinds of actions, Tom.
All right, so let's go ahead and pivot to the next story real quick. Before we jump into this next story to just piece everything together, it's going to be interesting. Before we piece everything together, let me start by saying this. I think we all would agree, generally, nobody likes getting punked. Nobody likes feeling like they're being taken advantage of. Nobody likes feeling like somebody's B. I mean, like, it is what it is. You want to be able to have the autonomy to do things how you want to do them. And that actually kind of happens in your career. So sometimes people go along and follow marching orders, but there are other times where you get marching orders and you don't agree with them. So you're willing to plant your flag on a hill and die on it. So let's take that into consideration now that we got the background. We know everything that's going on. Now, again, I'm pulling this from CNN. We know which way CNN leans, but the story, the facts behind it is accurate. So U.S. Attorney for DOJ calls down, says, hey, acting United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, I want you to dismiss Eric Adams' indictment. We believe that he didn't have enough time to prepare. We believe that it was bogus and trumped up just because he was talking bad about Biden's immigration policies, all of these things. Now, this is where we are today.
News in our Law and Justice Lead, we just told you about multiple high-level resignations at the Justice Department and the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office, all of them apparently prompted by the Trump administration's order for a New York court to drop the corruption case against New York Mayor Eric Adams. And now CNN has just obtained two letters. One is the resignation letter from the acting U.S. Attorney in New York. The other is the response she got from Trump's Deputy Attorney General, Emile Beauvais. Let's go straight.
So, again, everybody in play here is a Trump appointee, and I'm kind of confused. I'll let it play. We'll talk about it on the back end.
To CNN's Evan Paris. On Evan, just to remind everyone, Nadine Sassoon, the U.S. Attorney, the acting U.S. Attorney in question, is a conservative, a member of Danielle Sassoon, a conservative, a member of the Federalist Society. She clerked for Antonin Scalia. That's just a little background for people. What's in the letters?
That's right, Jake. And we should note she was put in place as the acting attorney, U.S. attorney in Manhattan by this current Trump team. In other words, they believed she could be trusted to run this office. And now it appears to have fallen apart all over because Emil Bove, who is the Deputy Attorney General, he's the acting Deputy Attorney General, had ordered her and her office to dismiss the charges, the corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And so these two letters here, Jake, are extraordinary because they are part of a spiraling crisis that is ongoing right now at the Justice Department. Not only is Danielle Sassoon, also has she resigned, but also two officials here at the Justice Department headquarters have resigned as a result of what has been going on. I'll read you just of what some of what Danielle Sassoon says in her letter to the Attorney General yesterday.
All right. So again, there's some people who just joined. I just want y'all to know what's going on. The United States attorney who is sitting in that role acting, who was appointed by the president, reached down to this acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York and gave her instructions. You need to dismiss Eric Adams' indictment. Clearly, she didn't want to do it, which is crazy because all these people are Republican appointees, all conservatives. She didn't want to do it. She resigned. She wrote this letter to tender her resignation about what was going on. Some people, some people, regardless of their politics, are going to stand on what they believe is in the interest of justice. And, I got to give credit to that. Respect. Everybody's not willing to do that.
It says in her
letter. Let's listen to the letter because it's important.
To the Attorney General yesterday, she accuses Bove of essentially being part of a quid pro quo with attorneys for Eric Adams. She describes a meeting that happened on January 31st, in which she says, I attended a meeting on January 31st with Mr. Bove, Adams' counsel, and members of my team. Adams' attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist with the department's enforcement priorities only if this indictment were dismissed. What Adams and his attorneys were offering was that he would help with the enforcement of immigration activities in New York City, the sanctuary status, all the things that Donald Trump wants, if they drop this case. And, that's one of the things she makes in this accusation. Now, Bove, for his part, responds today saying, essentially, we're accepting your resignation. And he also puts on administrative leave the attorneys who are running this case in the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office. And I'll read you just a part of what he says. He says that they had determined that there was weaponization in bringing this case, Jake. And he says the Justice Department will not tolerate the insubordination and apparent misconduct reflected in the approach that you and your office have taken in this matter. So what we know now, Jake, is this. After he had asked for the office to dismiss this case, and she had declined, saying nobody in her office was willing to sign the documents.
Hey, shout out to them for standing on business.
To dismiss the case, what happens next is that Bove goes to the public integrity section here in Washington, and he asks them, go to New York and sign these dismissals. They also declined, and they resigned. So as a
They can't get anybody at the they can't get anybody at the U.S. Attorney's Office at the Southern District of New York. They refused to sign it because the indictment is good. We read it. We went through it. The facts are there. Bro, you committed bribery. Ray Charles could see it. Anybody could see that you committed bribery with those facts that they have alleged in the indictment. It is what it is. Nobody at the Southern District of New York will do it. And shout out and credit to them because, hey, they stood on business. They resigned. The acting AUSA resigned. 3 people who were assigned to the case all got axed. Then the acting deputy U.S. attorney, because he can't get what he wants at the Southern District of New York, flies to D.C. to instruct someone, hey, public integrity section, go to New York, sign the paperwork so we can get this dismissal up out of here. And they resigned. They was like, nah, bro, that indictment looked good. You haven't given us a basis that we believe is justifiable to actually dismiss the indictment. Now, we're going to talk about Is this legal? Is it illegal? We're going to get into that. Let's go ahead, play a little bit more of this video before we close it out.
Result, Kevin Driscoll, who's the top client, and they resigned. So as a result, Kevin Driscoll, who's the top career lawyer in the criminal division, overseeing the public integrity section, he resigned today. And John Keller, also the acting head of the public integrity section, Jake, he resigned as a result of all of this.
Fascinating stuff. Evan Pettis, thanks so much. Let's talk about this with Ellie Honig, CNN senior legal analyst, who was an associate U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. And Ellie, again, this woman, this acting U.S. attorney, Danielle Sassone, was a conservative, is a conservative. She clerked for Scalia. She's a member of the Federalist Society. This is not her being a liberal activist prosecutor. Tell us about what kind of statement her resignation makes, do you think, not to mention the people in the public integrity section of DOJ?
Well, Jake, these resignations were courageous and necessary moves. It was the only right and principled and ethical move by all of them. All of them were faced with really a prosecutor's nightmare scenario. They were given a direct order from the DOJ bosses to dismiss a perfectly legitimate indictment before it ever saw a trial jury for purely overtly political reasons. If we look back a few days to Emil Bove's instruction to dismiss the case, that letter is a crazy document. It is completely political. It is explicitly political. It says, the reason I'm ordering you to dismiss this case has nothing to do with the merits of the case, nothing to do with the evidence, but because Eric Adams essentially needs to be freed up to pursue Donald Trump's immigration agenda. So good for Danielle Sassoon, good for the other DOJ prosecutors. They did the right thing. They took a stand here.
Hey, that's actually very, very, very impressive. Generally, as an investigative attorney, as a prosecutor, there are very limited situations where I'm willing to dismiss an indictment. Situation number one, where why would I unilaterally as a prosecutor dismiss an indictment if there's no evidence there? If the case was weak, which we all concede that it isn't, if the case was ass, we're just going to dismiss it because we're not about to waste resources when my guys could be indicting a real criminal, or my guys could be doing something that's bringing back restitution. I'm not wasting all of these salaries to do something that we can't win on. So if the evidence is trash, you don't move forward with the prosecution. The other reason is a resource reason. I have been given orders to get rid of certain cases due to resource constraints. If we have cases, a lot of it, the biggest example of this was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, court just kind of got locked up. So nobody was going to court. And what happened? They weren't having court. By the time they started Zoom court, the statute of limitations was ticking on a lot of the files that I had on my desk. Like, oh man, all these files I got, the statute of limitation is ticking. By the time we got actually situated with Zoom court, or people started going back in the court consistently, so much time had lapsed. A lot of the cases I had on my desk were just like almost on the verge of being like spoiled. It was spoilage day. It was just like spoiled milk. Like, damn, this smells bad. Do I really want to put this on my cereal? So because of the resources, hey, we have to make some resource. We don't have the resources to do all of these cases because of the backlog we got. Which are the cases that are worthy of our resources to move forward? All these old cases where the statute of limitations is going to expire in the next 6 months, I'm going to set those over here. Okay, of those cases that are over here, are any of the offenses so egregious or the evidence so strong that we could probably get a plea agreement? I might take those cases out to see if we could plea those cases out. But if the evidence is ass, if there's some resource constraint, you don't have the resources to do it, the case is about to be spoiled because the statute of limitations is on the verge of expiring, those are really the only two reasons. But one thing we said yesterday in the video where we talked about how the glazing of President Donald Trump was going on with Eric Adams as well as Tiffany Henyard, one thing I said, President Trump is transactional. That's actually not a bad thing. If I know that someone is transactional, that means that there's always a deal to be put on the table that's willing to be made. For good, bad, for ugly, whether it violates ethics, that's a whole different thing. But I know how to deal with a transactional person because I know that if they can negotiate something that they think is in this best interest, I can get what I want. They can probably get a little bit of what they want. I think that's what Eric Adams clearly tried to take advantage of. The problem for him is they can't get anyone to sign off on it. It's not illegal to do, but it does pose major ethical concerns for the attorneys involved. So I actually think that, I mean, I'm shocked that they stood on business, but overall, I do believe that they did the right thing. The one thing I don't understand, this is what I don't understand, and we're going to end with this. What I don't understand is the U.S. attorney, the head of DOJ, is a Trump appointee. The acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York is a Trump appointee. If you know that these type of quid pro quo things are going to go down, why the hell? I don't know. I would like to think at this point that President Trump, if his team is putting people in position in these positions, they have to understand, like, yo, if I put you in this position, this is what's going to be expected of you. So I find it, I mean, I understand why, like, I think that it's probably just we're looking at this person's background. Conservative, clerk for a conservative Supreme Court justice, was a clerk at the Federalist Society, one of the most conservative. So they probably just looked at her background and assumed that, hey, they're going to play ball with whatever we want to do because of her conservative nature. But for the life of me, I don't understand. If I know that I want to get these type of things done, whether they're ethically right or not, I'm not going to bull crap around and have someone in there where I'm assuming that they're going to do it. No, I think you should probably expressly ask them, like, hey, some things we want to get done may include these. Are you willing to do that? If not, don't put that person in there then, because now it just makes, I think it kind of makes you look weak when you say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And now everybody's standing on that moral high ground, which was the right thing to do. But I just don't understand how you're responsible for putting these people in play. I don't know. Like, you would just think that, I guess some people out there is going to stand on what they feel is right and do what's right. And shout out to them. I'm just confused at this point. We know how the current administration is. I think there was lesson learned from his first time where he had people in positions who didn't want to do the things that he wanted to do. But, so you think he would make adjustments. But I remember telling one of my good friends, and Wolverine, if you're watching this, he had told me, yeah, this time he's going to put people in office who's going to do what he wants to do. And I was like, no, he's not. He's going to put people in office who are telling him that they'll do what he wants them to do. But everybody says that until that paper is slid in front of you and they say, here, sign this and make this go away, or stand up and say that this is invalid. So, it's impossible to put in someone who is a real loyalist, because everyone is going to say, yeah, I got your back, until it's time for them to make a decision. But overall, hey, I think that in this case, the folks who resigned and stood on business, I think they had a valid point, a valid reason to stand on business. The charges were, in fact, valid charges. We looked at the indictment. The facts were there. And if this meeting did, in fact, happen where she asserts that this quid pro quo was made, we'll dismiss these charges if you do this, it is a terrible look. Is a really, really bad look. We'll see how everything plays out. But for now, it looks like Eric Adams still has an indictment over his head because nobody want to sign off on this shit. So it's interesting. Yo, that's it. I'm going to jump off this. I just wanted to talk about this real quick since we were talking about Eric Adams yesterday. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. You think that these attorneys did the right thing by standing on business saying, yo, we're not dismissing this for political reasons because of a quid pro quo? Or y'all think they should have they should have took the marching orders of their boss. Y'all knew what it was when y'all got appointed to these positions. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. And as always, y'all have a good evening. And check out the content on the screen. There's going to be more content related to attorney reactions. Peace.